Donald Trump may have made a fatal mistake in Pennsylvania by having Tony Hinchcliffe at Madison Square Garden say that Puerto Rico is a floating pile of garbage in the ocean. Why do I say this? Well, we're starting to do the math and learning about the disastrous fallout among Latino voters and specifically Puerto Rican voters in the United States. Let's back up a little bit. One of the states that is most likely to be the sole decider of this election, if the election were to come down to just one state, is the state of Pennsylvania. It just so happens that Pennsylvania also has one of the largest Puerto Rican populations, especially among the states that could decide the election. So let's talk it through, looking at this map from Newsweek. Florida has 1.2 million Puerto Rican people living within it. But most likely, Florida is gone to Trump. Now, we never give up on any state and we fight for everything, but we're being realistic here. And it does seem as though Florida has in presidential elections recently taken a decidedly red turn. More than likely, Kamala Harris's win is not going to depend on winning Florida.
So far, no disagreement with David the Pakman. I agree with his assessment about Florida. No propaganda, no spin there. Let's continue on.
Similarly, in New York, there are nearly 1.1 million Puerto Ricans. And similarly, Trump is not going to win New York. Trump is lying and saying we might win New York and New Jersey, but he is not going to. The election will not depend on New York. The election will not depend on New Jersey, which has nearly 500,000 Puerto Ricans. Kamala Harris is going to win that. Massachusetts.
So now, I completely agree. No propaganda, no spin from David the Pakman. Of course not. I will, however, though, add, because David doesn't put some context into this, for Trump to go ahead, people say, oh, Donald Trump, he's lying. He said he's going to win New York. He's going to win New Jersey. Hey, what do you think he's going to say? You think he's going to say he's going to lose? If you ask Donald Trump, he ought to say, I'm going to win all 50 states. I'm looking for everybody to back me. I mean, that's just politics, but these people are going to spin it as if it's another one of the 100,000 lies of Donald Trump. He actually saying that he's lying. He's not going to go in there and say he's going to lose. He's going to work for every vote. Now, what I would like to ask David, though, is that why doesn't he tell his listeners that at the same point in time or after the 2020, the most secure elections ever in the history of the United States and the world, you notice little wink, wink in the eye I gave there? Yeah, right. The most secure elections, right. Anyways, be that as it may, in 2020, Biden won New York by 23 points. If you look at any of the polling data that's even giving Kamala Harris any numbers at all, I've seen them anywhere from 7 to 14%. So let's give her somewhere right in the middle, 10%. There's a 13-point shift to the right in New York City, the red apple, the red state, a 13-point shift from 23 to 10. Okay, let me give you 14. A 9-point shift. 13 points, 9 points. Shift to the right. Same things occurring in New Jersey, same things occurring in Massachusetts, same things occurring all across the country. The numbers that Biden was getting, she's not getting those same numbers. So it's just saying that I think this is the context that she's going to win New York. She's going to, listen, if she loses New York and New Jersey, okay, then this was not a close election from the beginning. All right, so let's continue on with David.
Massachusetts has 330,000 Puerto Ricans. Massachusetts is going to go to Harris. So then you get to this state.
Of course, Massachusetts is going to go to Harris. But David is trying to, slowly and slowly he's trying to bring the audience and listeners by adding up all these numbers of the Puerto Rican population, each of these states. Because now I think he's going to spring us with this spin on what's happening in Pennsylvania with the 500,000 or so Puerto Ricans, 50% or more that happen to live in Allentown, PA, and its surrounding areas. So let's listen to what David has to say in terms of the propaganda ministry from David the Pakman show. Listen, folks, to this.
Of Pennsylvania. Nearly 4% of the Pennsylvanian population is Puerto Rican. That's nearly 500,000 people. And what we are now starting to see, as Politico reports, is that...
This is from Politico, folks. Politico, which thinks they're political, but they're not. They're just a mouthpiece, an extension for the Democratic National Party, the DNP, as we call it. It's a leftist propaganda hit machine.
Trump's Puerto Rico fallout is, quote, spreading like wildfire in Pennsylvania. And
spreading like wildfire, folks. The reason I'm pointing that out, I just want to share with you that this is David trying to give you actual news without trying to be on one side or the other, but just hopefully trying to ascertain whether or not this is true. And I've got a video that's coming up, and I'm going to show you some things, and I'm going to try to be as middle of the road as possible, because I tried to see and scour the internet to see if I could see any type of fallout that was spreading like wildfire in Allentown, PA. And I called up some friends of mine who happened to be from Puerto Rico, and just asking them as well. And they were laughing on the phone with me, saying that there's nothing going on. They still love everything about President Trump. So I know you could say, Dr. Nasser, that's anecdotal. Okay, fine. But I just want you to, spreading like wildfire. Okay? Where is the backup to this story? Where can you back it up with actual proof other than just your spin? And I don't even want to call it opinion, because you can have an opinion, but you need to somehow back that up with statistics or facts, data. Otherwise, you're just basically gaslighting. And that's what David the Pakman is really good at, gaslighting. I mean, he is a propaganda, mouthpiece for leftists and progressives. David the Pakman is. I think he'd agree with that. I think all of us would agree with that. Anyways, let's continue and see what else David has to say on the subject matter.
This article outlines and argues that Donald Trump, quote, has a serious Puerto Rico problem in Pennsylvania. Now, the first question we would ask in...
We could use I'll make a joke right here. He's got a serious PR problem. That's right. He's got a serious PR problem, right? PR. And there's PR.
Such a scenario would be, okay, Tony Hinchcliffe said that thing, but do Puerto Ricans care? Is it affecting Trump? Is anyone attaching it to Trump? The answer is yes. Widespread condemnation from within the Puerto Rican community. Very few Puerto Ricans writing this off as just a silly joke, and that's still such bullshit. No, that's not happening.
Okay, really? Take a look at this, folks. So I'm just going to let this thing, play out, this tape. It's about 6 minutes long, but I want to give you context in its entirety. So you say, oh, you didn't clip some few things here, clip some few things there. And then after the video is done, I want to show you basically some other things that are happening in terms of these huge rallies that are supposed... In fact, you know what I'm going to do? Before we get to this video, I'm going to show you the huge protests that are sparking outrage that David the Pac-Man is talking about. Because you got to see these huge, the huge protests are out there. I was so wrong. I'm so sorry, David the Pac-Man. You were correct. The protests are absolutely massive. They're absolutely unbelievable. And to show that, I'm going to show you proof. I'm going to show you proof that David Pac-Man is right. That these protests are absolutely humongous out there. And I was probably wrong. So in my wrongness, I want to share with you why David Pac-Man is saying that this protests are spreading like absolute wildfire in Pennsylvania and in Allentown particularly. So take a look at this video first. So first we've got the Puerto Rican Senator, Zarada Buxo, who's already endorsed. She's a shadow senator from Puerto Rico. She's endorsed President Trump. So the topmost official from Puerto Rico has given her 100% endorsement to President Trump. You don't think that's going to play with a lot of people? David, did you fail to mention that to your audience, David the Pac-Man? Now watch where David is so right about this huge protest. Now see, we can all have our, we can all define. That's all we're doing these days, defining words, right? So huge to one person may not be so much, so it may be huge to another person. So I'm just going to share with you the picture of the protest, and then you really decide to tell me who was really giving the propaganda in terms of the hugeness of the protest. Okay, so take a look at this video. I'll let it re-loop so you can see the huge, massive protests. That's it, folks. There you're seeing it, folks. There you're seeing it. That's the massive protest. 2 flags out there. That was pretty much it. So this is the video that I'm going to let play. It's by Spectrum News, and I'm not sure, what their political affiliation is. I would imagine local news station probably leans left, but don't hold me to it. Just saying, I really didn't look into it. But I am let you watch this entirety to see you get a flavor of all of this political dissent that's supposed to be there, and this mass hysteria of Puerto Ricans and Latinos just turning on Republicans and Trump because of this wildfire that's spreading there. You tell me, folks, after you listen to this.
What do you think about what took place at his rally at MSG last night?
I think it was definitely poor timing. It was absolutely bad timing. I was happy his campaign said something immediately. I do think he needs to address it. I think the reality is there's several landfills in Puerto Rico that are taking over the water system, being poured into the oceans, and really polluting and damaging the island. That could have been what he was referencing to, but it was just poor time and just poor choice of words. That I think that folks that are on the fence really led them away from Trump at this time. So I think that's why strategically he needs to address it.
Did it at all make you question your support for him?
No.
No, it didn't. Great opinion. He thinks poor timing, ill-advised, thinks that some people sitting on the fence it might affect. That's a valid opinion to have. But to say that this is spreading like wildfire and there's dissent and there's protest, that's a whole different kettle of fish, folks.
It didn't at all. I just think it was just another poor timing for someone at his rally.
I do believe it could hurt, but I also learned that the reason the reference was made is because there's 29 dump sites, garbage dump sites in Puerto Rico, and the Biden administration, Biden-Harris administration, are not allowing them to burn it. So they're the ones turning Puerto Rico into a garbage dump. That's what I heard. I'm not sure how true it is. Puerto Rico's only 70 miles by 35 miles, 29 garbage dumps that they can't do anything with it. I mean, you figure it out.
Guys, if this guy found this out and researched this thing and did it, you don't think that other people within the Puerto Rican community are getting the similar kind of information on all the different social media platforms? Does this guy look like, again, in opinion, he said, you know what? It might, and that's a valid opinion. But to say that you're going to absolutely lose that demographic completely, that's the thing that I'm talking about when David the Pakman starts the propaganda, the verbal diarrhea propaganda that emanates from David the Pakman. Anyways, let's continue.
Does the comment and the fact that it took place at one of his largest events of the year make you question your support for him at all?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
It really doesn't, because I'm one that I look into, I research. I will look into what was said. Was this what he really said? And having gone to 3 rallies, worked 2 of them, and another one tomorrow, I've heard what he says, and I've lived what he did 4 years, let's say 8 years ago, So for me, no. I could understand a lot of people being upset, but the reference was made due to the garbage dumps that are in Puerto Rico that the Biden-Harris administration aren't allowing anyone to do anything about it. So they're...
Did David the Pakman tell you about that? That because of climate change and global warming and all that other bullshit that these leftists and propagandists talk about, try to ruin the way of American life and life for third world countries as well, with this bullshit about global climate change and all this other crap that they talk about? Did David the Pakman sort of leave out the fact that the Biden administration for the last 3.5 years has allowed the garbage collection, the garbage dumping to be maintained on the island of Puerto Rico and they can't do anything about it? I don't think so. David the Pakman let you guys know about that, did he? I don't think so.
Just piling up. So that's where the reference came. People need to wake up and realize they're not going to do nothing for us.
The first thing I would say about the comedian last night is comedians are comedians, and sometimes we have to laugh at ourselves and sometimes we have to laugh at situations, and comedians come off with sometimes their joke is great and sometimes it's an epic fail, but I'm not going to sit and harp on what a comedian said. If the comedian's talking about failed leadership, and that was, we don't know the context of how the joke was written, but the fact is, if he's talking about the context of failed leadership has turned your country into a trash country, then look at Donald Trump. 8 years ago, he talked about Baltimore being a shithole city, and then Scott Pressler went in and cleaned up the city, started cleaning up trash all over the country, and look at the movement that turned into.
Now, what David the Pakman will probably say, and I can probably guess because I know how these people think, is that, first of all, white supremacist, that's the first thing that's going to happen, labeling this guy. Possibly a Nazi, that's the next thing that they'll basically say at him. And then they'll talk about his white privilege and that he cannot talk about this subject matter because he's not Puerto Rican. He doesn't have the right kind of skin, kind of a tannish. I kind of like it. More white on this side. And I have some other areas in my body that are white, but I really couldn't show you those right now. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, that's what will happen, that this guy has no right to talk about it because he's white and he's talking sense. So there is that.
So sometimes you just have to create an awareness about something in order to make a positive effect in the end.
And that's what Trump does.
Puerto Rican. He's the one that told me, and luckily he's still a fan of Trump, and he knows how bad Kamala Harris has lied to this country, and he basically said she thinks we're idiots, and she continues to lie to us. I'm power quoting, and he says, I'm still going to vote for Donald Trump, but that could have persuaded people. And he also said that he thought that, if anything, he must have been paid for by the Kamala Harris people to say something like to sabotage him. I don't think that, but that's what he said, and he's a good friend of mine.
Did you see what was said at his rally at Madison Square Garden last night about Puerto Ricans, about Latinos?
Oh yeah, I know, it's crazy. This comentario, the comedian, it's not good.
Did it frustrate you?
No,
No.
no cambia me, no change my things, my position with. I'm firm for Trump.
Yeah, it didn't change the position. David the Pac-Man, this is really spreading like wildfire in Pennsylvania and Allentown, all across the Puerto Rican community. Politico, spreading like wildfire. I'm just trying to add some context to the propaganda machine of the David the Pac-Man show. And that's why I keep saying that there would be something nice if I could at least let David know that I could add the balance to this propaganda. He's coming at it from the left. I could come at it from the right. And we could sort of mesh somewhere in the middle maybe and see where we have common ground. But David is leaving a lot of things out for you folks. I just wanted you to see it for yourselves.
Vote for Trump.
You worry in the closing days that those could maybe,
Uh-oh.
give people the wrong impression about the Trump team?
Another white supremacist.
Yeah, I just heard about you. I wasn't there, and somebody will text me that too, and then show me some comedian did a really lame attempt at a joke. I don't know why he would ever do that. And normally,
I'll tell you, Joe, why. Don't apologize, for crying out loud. You're the chair of the GOP. What the hell are you apologizing for? That's what they want, so they can kick you in the nuts after you apologize and then stomp on them afterwards. You can just say, you know what? Yeah, maybe it was, not the right timing. The joke bombed, shouldn't have said it. The reason he said it is because he's a comedian. That's why he said it. What about Joe Biden calling all of Trump's supporters garbage? The only reason that we're making light, saying that today is to counterbalance the narrative of a comedian saying. So a comedian says it, off-color joke. It's comedy, so who gives a shit? But now you got the president saying something. You're going to equate the two, comedian, El Presidente. And the reason I said El Presidente is for any of those of you white people out there that couldn't understand when I said president. So I said it in Spanish. So for you white people out there, you could understand both languages. Okay?
Trump team is good at vetting who they come on. So I don't even know who this guy was. I don't even know, why they even had him there. But
because he's a funny guy, Joe.
Unfortunately, maybe he went off script, and which was very poor in what he said. And I mean, I definitely think it's ridiculous.
This is a rhino Republican. He's rhino.
I guess
that's fine. He has his opinion. But I'm bringing it to him, letting him speak.
When I heard, it was at a Trump rally. It was a speaker that the team, not Trump himself, picked to go out there. But those are the words of that comedian. That is not the words of the Republican Party. That is not the words of Donald Trump. And in no way will President Trump associate with those kind of comments or the Republican Party. So you're not going to hear that here tomorrow night. I mean, this is a majority Puerto Rican and Dominican town, Hispanic. We are highly happy with that. We're happy with with our reception in Allentown as a Republican Party, and I know we're going to have a strong Hispanic showing tomorrow. And we have, I believe, an outstanding Puerto Rican who's going to be American who's going to be speaking at our rally, and who's going to be a hell of a lot more eloquent than whoever that.
Just wanted to share with you. This is Marco Rubio campaigning in Allentown, Pennsylvania, speaking to the crowd in Espanol. Majority Latino city, nearly a third Puerto Rican. I already said that. Make up 6% of the electorate in PA. You want to see how many people were there for Marco Rubio? Thousands. Thousands. Are these people protesting? Did they not show up? Did they decide not to show up in deep protest? That would have been a wildfire protest, according to Politico, if you only had a handful of people that showed up, a few hundred, like the few hundred or the tens. And when I mean tens, I'm talking like tens of people that sometime are appearing for Kamala Harris and Tim AWOL, AWOL Walls, where the majority of these events that Kamala Harris is having are invite only. Or she has to lie about having a rock star performer like Beyonce and having the mainstream media and the legacy media genuflect and lie for her to say that Beyonce is going to perform. And then, of course, you get 30, 40,000 people to show up. And then she speaks for 4 minutes. And the only thing she's speaking about as a mother is to KILL children in utero. MURDER children with abortion. But she's speaking as a mother. That, we could say, would spread like wildfire. And it certainly did. But, of course, Politico wouldn't talk about that now, would they? That the fact that Beyonce was, sold as she was going to perform so they could get the numbers up. I wonder what David the Pakman was saying about that. Did he happen to mention that when you're talking about crowd size? I don't think so. But this is the crowd size, folks, here. Thousands. I'd probably say maybe 500,000 people in Latinos and Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. Allentown. I'll be like Donald Trump. There's probably 100,000 people there. All I know, folks, is there were thousands. Let's just say between 0 and 10,000. Somewhere around there. You pick a number. Start counting red hats. We just saw this video. Saying Trump supporters are lining the Allentown streets. Let's see here. And here it is. Here's Angela. This is just some stuff on X. He may have said it, does not make it true. The protest of Puerto Ricans at Allentown consisted of 2 people, she's saying. Because her husband is Puerto Rican, born on the island. He's a registered Democrat, voting for Trump for the 3rd time. What do you think of Angela and her husband? Here's one, Denise Friday. Yeah, she looks like a leftist. Her thing is Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, our fellow Americans, and they've had to deal with this racist BS long enough. Not so warm Trump welcome in Allentown as Puerto Ricans swing away after offensive rally. You know what? This is probably one of your listening audience, David the Pakman. And so here was, I think, here's a husband and wife community where Trump's rally in Allentown. Their thoughts on the NYC rally. See why they still stand with at real Donald Trump. This was the same video, the 16, 17 shot video of the massive, huge rally that's spreading like wildfire, according to David the Pakman. So they did. This is the done with the Spanish interpretation. I don't think it's changed much. I think you've still got the same 2 people protesting, with the flag. And it says here, Denise Willier, some Puerto Ricans are planning to protest Trump's rally, a majority Latino city. And the arena Trump is speaking is located in the middle of the city's Puerto Rican neighborhood. This was, of course, Trump's fallout is spreading like wildfire. Now, this person, Byron York, is saying, we all know Byron, 125,000 people in Allentown, 68,000 are Hispanic, most have roots in Puerto Rico. He's saying about 40 protesters, so maybe there were some milling in the crowd out there, but mostly that crowd over to the right had American flags and Puerto Rican flags, and they were all, part of the Donald Trump thing. So it just seems like those two were the ones that were really the huge ones. So even if he's saying about 40 protesters is not exactly a show of force. Let's say even 100 came out. Let me even give you 100. Is that really spreading like wildfire? Is that going to cause? See, this is the gaslighting that is being done because they know what's happening. They've lost their firewall in Pennsylvania, and David knows that. He knows the early voting with Pennsylvania, the registrations. Pennsylvania, we used to have a 1.1 registration. Oh my goodness, I'm losing it right now. They were up by 1.1 registered voters. That's been cut to somewhere, they say, between 280 and let's say 350. So nearly 650 to 750,000 voters less because the Republicans have caught up. They're only behind, not by 1.1 or 1.2 million registered voters, but Republicans are somewhere in that 300,000 range behind right now. And that was a Democratic firewall of 1.1 votes that they supposedly the most secure election ever in 2020. And still Trump went to the right of that and supposedly lost it by 70,000 votes. So I just ask you, I'd love your comments down below. Let me know what you think. If you really think that I'm not trying to present both sides to this, then I really don't know what to say. But I would certainly want to find out from you folks that David the Pakman, why the gaslighting? Why not give the full story? Give the good and the bad. Let the people decide instead of just funneling it, one way. Anyways, we appreciate you taking the time to watch. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. I've been your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow. You all know what to do. I really, really would like to see your comment. I saw the comments that were below. 90% of them were David the Pakman supporters. I understand that. I love it. Try to get back to you on those on those replies. Keep it civil, guys. Keep it civil. No use to, no reason to get snarky. My final thought is always, when you're right, you're right. And I'm always right. And when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, y'all take care and stay safe.